Hey, everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the Engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live, headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay, every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Arts Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.
Hey, this is Tyler Jones, and you're listening to The Element Podcast.
It's got me looking for a dance floor. Grab a daddy in your bonfire brightest day. I come in, breaking, crush, making, sugar shaking, out the leg, and everything is going my way. I got a long-legged girlfriend, hopping out the shotgun.
What's happening, all my woods people? We're sitting in a metal building, no service in our phones, and somehow there are still aliens in the audio waves. We struggle with this thing that I may not even should bring to y'all's attention because most of you haven't even noticed this, but every once in a while we have some weird like aliens in the audio because of like phone service and phone signals and stuff. So we're always trying to manage that. So if you hear it, just don't pay attention to it.
Yeah.
Have grace towards us.
It's not that we're sending any like subliminal messages or anything.
It's like, what's the, this is terrible, but I'm blanking on the Morse code or whatever. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like Morse code.
Everything's fine. No one's unsafe. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So today we've got Brian from day 6 again on the podcast. We're tired of this guy, but he's on. No, we love Brian. Actually, we had you had a good conversation with him the other day, which is what spurred us wanting to have him on this podcast again. Mm-hmm. We thought that this would be maybe edifying for the listener to be able to sit in on this conversation, and also for us. I mean, I think we definitely learned some stuff through talking to different people. We've had some good Brian conversations lately.
That's right, man. The Bryans are holding it down.
The Bryans are doing it, man. Yeah. You know, I mean, yeah. The smartest guy on Family Guy was also Brian, wasn't he?
That's true.
It might have been Stewie, though.
I don't know.
Who do you think? I know you used to watch it. You have
a little
to say.
bit. Well, the thing with Family Guy was that it was always on when it was time for a college kid to watch TV.
Yeah.
So it was like that or the nightly news. What are you going to watch? You know, on FX, Family Guy was on from it seemed like 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. So it's just what you end up watching.
Yeah.
Definitely Brian.
Brian, yeah.
Stu was stupid.
Well, he was a baby, so
yeah, that's true.
Kind of.
They can give him some slack there.
Anyway, I've been thinking, and it's a freezing cold morning, and you can rely on me to give you correct weather info. It's a freezing cold morning here. It's like 9:30, and it's still frosty out there, dude.
Yeah.
I stood out on the phone for like 40 minutes and barely survived. But I had to bring all my plants in because I got a bunch of starter plants that are in whatever those little
cells.
Yeah, cells, like, you know, mini greenhouse effect is created. And I've got some purple tomatillos coming up and some flowers and different things like that. My kids wanted to plant flowers, so we did some of that. And then I've got like some tomato plants that were actually, you know, bought as plants.
Y'all are early on tomatoes.
Yeah.
Like y'all are getting started quick.
I want to because I can't stand waiting any longer to eat tomatoes. Fresh tomatoes are the best. Dude.
They are good.
So, yeah, we got a purple Cherokee.
Oh, purple Cherokee. You've been talking about those for a while.
They are really good.
They're hard to find.
They are.
What brand did you get?
That is a Bonnie.
Bonnie
plant, yep. Yeah. So Kaylee only bought one, but she found that at Lowe's, I think. So she got it. We've got a couple different purple kinds. We got a couple of normal kinds. I always try to have a Sweet 100. I didn't have one last year, but I always have tried to because they are just the best. I mean, if they come off in hordes, and you can just literally slice them in half, take a block of cheddar, slice a piece off of it, and put it on a cracker, and it is the best thing you can eat, dude.
Sounds pretty good.
So good. But, yeah, I did some tree research. I've been thinking a lot about gardening lately, and you have been doing some tree search as well.
So I'm a tree searcher. Fruit trees are kind of my thing this year. So with our living situation, gardening is just not going to go well this year.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to share crop with Brad.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and just help him on his garden, and then, just reap the benefits, which I already do anyways. He always way overproduces, which is a good thing. But
you can put a box in here if you want.
that's all right. I'd rather just have the one thing.
Yeah.
He grows everything that I care to grow.
Yeah.
And his soil is good.
Is it?
His garden is bad to the bone. Yeah. So he's got a really good sandy loam that's dark.
Uh-huh.
Oh, man, grows
Yeah.
good. As opposed to my dirt is just almost sugar sand.
Yeah.
So it's pretty tough gardening sometimes. Once I get moved over there, I'm going to do some soil amendments, a lot of mulching and stuff, I think. But anyways, so I can't really plant a lot of garden plants, and I really have been into fruit trees lately. Been researching fruit trees a lot. I did some oak tree planting.
Are you saying you're fruity?
A little bit. So it makes you happy. I've been thinking about that some. Oak trees are cool. I love the whole process of oaks, but honestly, as a wildlife tree, oaks are a little bit limited on what they can really do for wildlife because they only drop at certain times and they're real finicky, and they take a long time to grow. Whereas in 4 years, you can have a pear tree that's literally producing enough fruit to feed deer. Oaks for human consumption is a tough thing to make happen. You can, but do you really want to go through the effort?
No, you don't.
No.
Only Hank Shaw does.
That's right. Yeah. No, thank you, sir. But I've been looking at fruit a lot, specifically trying to figure out southern apples because I think it's a weird thing, but I know that deer like them when they can get to them. I've already planted some pears. I'll probably plant some more pears.
Are you planting these on your property or in planters,
probably on the property,
pots or whatever?
I might do some in containers just because, part of what is going to be ours isn't ours yet.
Yeah.
So we're going through a process with another family, but anyways, I would like to do some more planting over there. So I might do some container stuff with that, but as is, I'm still going to probably put in progressively through the years an orchard on what we already own right there. So I'd like to do apples, peaches, plums, all the good stuff. Right?
Do
already
deer
planted.
eat peaches?
I don't think so. Well, they'll probably browse them and they'll probably eat them on the ground if they're around. But I don't think it's I don't know why. Maybe it's just because they're so soft that they just don't have a lot of. Shelf life isn't the word, but it's the kind of one we're going to use.
They break down really quickly.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas something more meaty, like a apple, is going to lay on the ground for a week or more.
Yeah.
For a deer to eat. So I don't know, but all those things would be really cool to have. Right now, I'm trying to figure out apples. Not that I'm going to plant a bunch of apples, but I would like to have some. The thing you got to worry about is fire blight with apples. Anywhere there's cedar trees, it gets kind of sketchy, and I have some cedar trees. But they're pretty far away from them, so I don't know. There's a lot of guys that grow apples around cedar trees, and they just control the fire blight. So I think that it's a little bit blown out of proportion, but at the same time, as a super amateur orchardist, if you can call myself that, you got to kind of really watch out what you're biting into, right?
Hey.
That's right, apples.
So do you spray that blight, or how do they manage that?
You trim it.
Oh.
So it's like a spot on the tree, and then you go down and trim below it. But you can spray preventatively, I think a copper mix people spray for fire blight. I don't know. I'm just trying to learn this stuff.
Yeah. I've been real interested in getting some lemon trees, and I will do it. Just because, just for
they're going to be a container for sure.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. At least for a while, until I find somewhere. But they say they grow really good in containers. So
yeah.
Did you know? You probably knew this, but I didn't. And if I did, I didn't remember. But lemons are not. They're man human created, man-made. Like there wasn't, God didn't make lemon trees.
Made lime trees and
He made a citron.
Yeah.
I think it's a citron mixed with something else. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's cool.
So lemon is man-made, but it was man-made a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like a lot of our plants are that way. I mean, nobody knows where an apple came from. Nobody knows where a peach came from. I guess that's technically not true. There are wild apple trees, but nothing like the varieties we have. But peaches, nobody has a clue.
Georgia, right?
Yeah.
Georgia.
And corn is completely different than what, it actually started out in the wild, which is a really cool, crazy thing. But yeah. I mean, it's kind of neat. And, well, what's really cool about this is that you might think like, oh, man's messing stuff up or whatever, but that's actually what God commissioned us to do as our first job with Adam, was to name the animals and take care of the garden. So kind of cool,
yeah,
really.
What's funny is my wife kind of said the same thing when I told her about that lemon thing yesterday. She was like, it's under God's providence.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I said, man, just kind of hurts my heart that it wasn't, it's man-made or whatever lemon is. And she's like, under God's providence.
Yeah.
I was like, heckgummit.
It's cool, man.
Get out of here.
It's cool stuff. Get out of here. Get out in that cold.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, yeah, it's the fruit tree thing is something that is definitely a cool thing, man. I don't know if you saw this, but I have a baby groundsel growing up out there.
I know. I've threatened to steal him.
Okay, I didn't know,
times.
but I think there's 2 of them.
Oh my, they're growing. There used
I'm
to
not
be
sure.
one. There's a bunch down the end of your road.
Are there?
Yeah. I
think you could easily dig that up, right, and put it in a pot and let it grow
if
for a
it's
while.
Small, I think that here's the thing, they're kind of evergreen, so it's kind of tough to take cuttings off of and make them sprout. I don't know. Groundsel's a weird thing. We love it. No one talks about it because it's sort of invasive, but at the same time, if you're creating habitat,
dude,
invasive is relative.
Yeah, we have seen some groundsel work well.
Man,
it's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway.
What stinks is they can't eat it, or they don't eat it.
Yeah.
So it's. I think whenever people talk about wildlife habitat, a lot of times you're looking for a multifaceted use for a plant. But at the same time, if you're providing adequate nutrition and browse elsewhere, a good cover habitat is a good thing.
Yeah, and what like if you put a bunch of groundsel by the road and give this security, then you're creating less stress for the animal, which could enhance their lifespan and this and that. So yeah, there's a lot of things to think about for sure. Mm-hmm. It's a cool thing, man. One day I'll have some land and I'll get to mess around on it and see what I can come up with too. Yeah, I'll probably plant an orchard on it as well. So
what's funny is whenever you do own a little bit of land, you end up just going out there and walking around and not really accomplishing anything.
You're just like, I can't wait till I do something.
You just walk around and look at it.
Just to look at it.
But it's fun. It's cool.
Yeah.
So hopefully you get to do that one of these days.
Dude, you've got some cool things going on at your property, man.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I saw, we just figured out that the buck that I passed this year that probably shouldn't have got a pass. However, he was pretty far shot, which we'll talk about that in the podcast in a little bit with Brian. But anyways, buck got a pass because I thought it was a different deer. It's kind of early in the morning. I was a little bit foggy. Ends up he is a deer who's been on my property for a couple years. Found a 3-year-old, what I think is a 3-year-old picture of him, and this year's a 4-year-old. Significant growth between the 2 years. I just posted that on the Instagram story. And then, so I don't know, but on my property, there's a real good chance for deer to survive year to year because there's not a lot of hunting pressure around where I live, which is really, really cool. There's one guy who I think might shoot deer off his back porch. So outside of that, more power to him, whatever. Yeah. Outside of that, there's a good chance that I get to see him as a 5-year-old maybe and see what that's all about, and that would be cool. Mm-hmm. So from here on out, I'm just going to try to improve property. And
he's got a look to his body that is like, you can tell he's just built to be a little bit bigger deer than most of the deer around. You know what I mean? Yeah. He's kind of got that sleek coat, filled out in all the right places, kind of thoroughbred look, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to be a big one next year, dude.
I'm excited.
I know.
I'm excited. And what's cool is that one of the things that I did on the property this year is, I put out a feeder and different things, but I didn't do a ton of amendments because I just wanted to see how the property behaved, if you can use that terminology, without doing too much human activity and too many things, right? I kind of wanted to hunt it somewhat from a distance to see what the deer did because I feel like, and I'm an amateur at habitat stuff too, right? But I feel like instead of trying to make a property something it's not, you're a lot better off trying to improve the things it already has, right? And what I learned this year from this property is that the deer love the open stuff as much as they do the timber. So make sure and do improvements on the open country to make it have better cover, but there's no reason to like plant a bunch of trees and try to turn the place into a forest, right? Like that doesn't make any sense. So little things like that are going to improve in the future.
Well, so at what point do you, or if ever, go into the woods and start trimming some holes in the canopy there?
I don't think ever at this point. I mean, I kind of like the ratio I've got going, and there's a riparian area down through most of the timber. So, I mean, it'll naturally do it that. I might go in there and do some...
So you're going to keep all them swamp oaks and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But the red cedars, stuff like that, might go in there and do a little bit of something. Probably won't take them all out because they're supposed to be here, but at the same time, after listening to everyone in the world about cedar trees, like I can kind of see that they have a benefit, but it's minute. So the right cedar tree is the big thing. I think that it's like visual seclusion, just like that's the big thing for deer.
Yeah, we don't really need like thermal cover here usually. You know what I mean? I could see like windbreak on particular day or two, springtime especially. You know, like would be helpful. But is it really worth having that cedar taking up a good chunk of ground that could be growing a fruit tree or something? You know what I mean, or whatever,
or briars or whatever.
Yeah.
So that might be a little bit of the timber stand stuff I do, but. I don't know. I know that like the whole idea is to go and improve on things, but it's kind of nice to just look at something and be like, oh, that's how it's always been or whatever, you know. But my big thing, actually, one of the big habitat improvements I did on my property this year is over the past couple weeks, I've gone out and cut down a bunch of like sapling pines because those pine trees weren't there 50 years ago, and then the neighbor planted some, and then now like my hill is all like the road frontage is really nice because it's a pine thicket, so a lot of it you can't see back into, but those pines are starting to encroach, and if I let it go for another 20 years, I would just have pine forest meets oak forest. So pretty much from the oak tree line back up to a certain point, I've been cutting almost all the pine trees out.
Really?
But I've left a few for rub trees because the deer really love to rub those. So
you've seen, sorry if I don't remember and you told me, but you've seen several pines rubbed out there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You think that's because of the smell?
I think so.
Yeah.
Because they rub the sassafras, too.
Yeah.
That's the only two things I've seen rubs on are pine and sassafras on that property.
When you make sassafras root beer, you better give me a taste of it.
Man, that's going to be a process to figure out. I feel like sassafras tea is going to be the easier thing to do.
Probably.
But we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll make that happen one of these days. I got 2 sassafras stands, so.
Yeah. I love them in the fall. They're so pretty.
Beautiful, man.
Yep.
And they are a host for one of the swallowtail butterflies. I can't remember which one.
Really?
But one of the bigger, prettier varieties of swallowtail. So it's kind of cool thing,
That
too.
is cool.
They don't really benefit deer in any way, but they ain't all about deer.
Yeah. I think they're a little bit of bedding cover, huh?
Yeah, something.
I mean, they hang out in those thickets
They
a little
rub
bit,
them.
don't they?
So there you go. Benefits.
There you go. The leading sign.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Cool. Well, man, we could talk about this stuff forever, but
we almost have. So sorry.
Yeah, we almost have. But Brian has actually some really good thoughts here, man. So he's worth listening to as well. So if you're still hanging in there, keep on keeping on.
Some gasoline in a peace sign, yeah. He gonna light up the night with the flame in the eyes. The pretty little dressed up girls. It's kind of hard being 16 on a Friday night after a football.
Okay, so today on the podcast, we have got Brian Broderick with Day 6, the Sultan of Swine, the Crappie Master Extraordinaire.
The Colossus of Crappie.
The Colossus of Crappie. Derrick Henry's uncle, everything.
Oh, baby.
Right? So just
I claim that.
all around Alabama extraordinaire, Brian Broderick. What's going on, dude?
Same old stuff. Just living the dream.
That's good. That's a very generic answer for a not very generic guy, man. You're so unique. Come on, give me something
Well,
better.
I had that on my cheat sheet.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
scratch it off, so I won't use it again.
What word was that replacing?
Oh, man. So we've actually been on the phone with Brian for a little while before this. As y'all know, these are false lead-ins. Of course, we call these people beforehand. But we've been talking about a lot of stuff. Brian's become a really good friend to Tyler and I, and, makes a
Father
really
figure of sorts.
That's
Not
right.
a father figure.
Yeah, we are now dependents. Anyways, we've been talking about a lot of stuff. And honestly, we put out a video here a while back of a deer that I shot in Kansas and lost, and received a bunch of encouraging and nice things because I was having a hard time with it. A bunch of comments that were very encouraging, so I appreciate that, y'all. But Brian kind of wanted to talk about it a little bit, and him and I actually had a phone conversation the other day about stuff, and we really think that there's probably some stuff that we needed to convey in a more concise manner, maybe of like what actually happened, and just kind of get rid of some misinformation that maybe I portrayed or that just some of y'all might have inferred from the video. So Brian, being a father figure, has had many more years on this earth and has shot a bunch more stuff than I have.
If I can't claim y'all on my income tax, you can knock it off.
You can try it. I don't know. Across state lines, it gets kind of weird.
If I could write off KC's hair product, it might be worth it.
Oh, dadgum, I need the Rogaine, though. But anyways. So if you haven't seen the video, it's episode 39 of the season playlist or something like that.
30
something.
Go
look at our YouTube channel. You'll see it. We'll put a link down below. But it was my last hunt in Kansas for this season, and I had got down to the end of the season where I was willing to shoot any respectable buck because it was really about meat acquisition at this point in time, and I needed to shoot a deer for me and my wife to eat, and God pretty much just gave me a layup. It was awesome, right? Except when it came down to the pinnacle of the moment, things went crazy. So, looking back, I did not aim quite as low as I would have liked to, or as I should have. I'll put it that way. I aimed about right below midline on the deer when I released my arrow. The deer was about 30 yards away, on alert, looking at me. He dropped, and when you add those two things together between the deer not being calm and being at a pretty good range, shooting archery equipment, it pretty much ended up with a not great shot, and immediately I knew it wasn't a good thing. And then that's where things really got crazy. Deer ran off and looked pretty hurt, honestly. He's flickering his tail a whole bunch, bled pretty good for the first 100 yards, and then that kind of dried up. And I then sprinted up the hill and glassed up the deer like right at last light after probably 30, 35 minutes after the shot, and saw the deer standing in place, just not moving anywhere. You could tell he was really hurt, but he was still on his feet, and I knew at that point in time it was time to back out and come back early the next morning and try to do a recovery on the deer. And that's what we did. I brought a buddy with me to try to go and grid the spot. I marked the last spot I saw him, went there and found blood right away, and that's the last blood we pretty much found. To make this long story short, grid search for a couple hours. Finally found a couple spots of hair, a small piece of bone, and then what was pretty much the stomach contents and a bunch of hair. And then that's where things got real murky. And Brian's got some well-grounded opinions on what happened, and I'm with him on what I think happened. But really, and this is me speaking, I guess, out of inexperience or just lack of years, lack of times this has happened. I don't know for sure what happened. But, Brian, you have seen this situation before, right? And you wanted to talk some about what you think and know, according to you, happened with that deer, right?
Well, certainly there's no certainty as to what happened.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that, man, because we talked a little bit about this the other day, but like Tyler and I both don't like people who speak in absolutes, right? Because there's no way to know for sure unless you were there. But you have a ton of experience in this situation, right?
Yeah, and I mean, certainly. And the thing is remember when before we even started the conversation the other day, I said, I've got some questions to ask you to confirm what I believe before I tell you what I think, because I still was missing information. And so I asked you questions first, but I can't be for sure what happened. There's always a chance that something else happened. And, if you came home and you got in bed and you felt something in your bed and you pulled your best buddy's underwear out from under your bed, you pretty much know what happened. But there's a chance that it just got hung up in the laundry and ended up in there. And you just didn't notice it for 3 weeks. I mean, there's always a chance,
I'm going with that
but
one.
But what I'm saying is that I feel pretty strongly about what happened to yours, only because of the information you gave me.
Yeah.
But also what I've seen happen, to deer, over the last 35 years, and how coyotes will treat wounded animals.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what do you think happened in that situation?
Well, first off, let me say I've had it happen to me. So I'm not some holier than thou guy that never makes mistakes. I've done the exact same thing. So, that deer was hit ahead of the diaphragm. So there's no question. I don't think any of us are debating that, right? It was in front of the diaphragm.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's break that down a little bit. So,
okay.
I know that we all kind of try to know a little bit of anatomy and whatnot on deer and stuff, but for someone who maybe hasn't done a whole bunch of dissections or something like that, right? So diaphragm is the muscle that's halfway down the abdomen that flexes and then allows the lungs, or pulls air into the lungs and pushes air out of the lungs, right?
It creates the vacuum for the chest cavity that allows the lungs to work, in layman's terms.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you poke holes in any living creature ahead of the diaphragm, let me just say one that has that type of anatomy, it cannot create the vacuum, and that, it will slowly suffocate. Now, can deer live through that? Yes, but they can live through it if there's one wound and it can heal up and seal up quickly, and the animal not get pressured, pushed, etc. When there's two holes, one on each side, it's a little more difficult, for both of those to heal up and seal up, and that animal be able to, generate that vacuum or pressure, if you will, so he doesn't suffocate, where he can breathe. It's not a pretty scenario for an animal to go through, for sure. But I feel pretty confident that arrow was ahead of the diaphragm, just based on looking at where you hit.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And if it wasn't, it probably was right at the diaphragm, which would be even worse, because you would cut through it and tear it, and then it's even worse. So, at that point, you're going to introduce all the different toxins and stuff from the stomach, and, all that different things in that cavity. But long story short, I don't think there's really any question where the deer was hit. I don't think there's any question there was two holes in him. And I think it was in front of the diaphragm. So I feel like the deer was certainly going to expire. So, so then you fast forward to what you found, which was hair and stomach contents, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, and primarily white hair, right?
Yeah, I would say, there was a decent amount of both types, but it was, if you talk about the ratios of a deer's body, we're talking probably 80% brown hair and 20% white hair, and it was probably a 50-50. So, yeah, it was a lot of white hair.
Right. So, what I've seen over the past and witnessed firsthand is that, when that deer gets to a point to where he would just lay there and expire if he wasn't, disturbed or instigated or whatever by another animal or something else, So, but the coyotes found him, and could have just been one, could have easily just been one. Could have been a female in pups, because I've actually watched a female in pups do what we're going to talk about. But what they'll do is, they'll literally just walk up there and just rip a hole open right in the guts. And when they know that animal can't escape, they're not going to expend the energy and risk their life to try to kill it. If it's standing there and it's basically strictly surviving on just pure adrenaline at this point, but it can't really run or go, that coyote's happy to sit there and take a bite, pull a little bit out, and just walk beside it, grab a hold of it, pull more out until the animal finally lays down and dies. These animals are geniuses. They're not, a wolf's the same way. Everything's the same. They're not going to take the chance of getting gored or hooved or whatever if they know the meal's there. So, I mean, you can even go on YouTube and watch videos of coyotes eating deer's same area stomach, sitting there feeding on their stomach while the deer is alert, alive, with its head up. I mean, that's just what these animals do. And so I feel pretty certain that's what took place there. I mean, the evidence is, what are the odds that another deer was there, gotten eaten or bitten or something, and its guts fell out with corn that had only been there a week? The stomach contents were still wet.
Yeah.
What are the odds that another deer happened like that? It's the same odds as the underwear getting hung in your laundry.
Yeah.
Believe what you want to believe, but it's, the evidence is kind of there. So, so what I was telling KC is that, because Tyler, we didn't have this conversation yet, but I shot an incredible deer in Oklahoma about 5 or 6 years ago, and probably hit the deer, I would say, almost as close to identical as what KC hit as you could get. I mean, it was the same exact shot. We tracked the deer back and forth across the river for a long, long way. Just an unbelievable track job, just hands and knees, hours and hours and hours. I would say almost a mile into the track, probably 6-7 hours later, the arrow finally pulled out. And when the arrow pulled out, we started getting a little bit more blood, a little bit easier to follow. Followed the deer back across the river again for the second time and stopped for a minute. And while I was looking for tracks in the sand and looking for any sign of blood, I could hear the deer coughing, trying to catch his breath.
How many hours later is that?
It was probably 6. Well, I shot the deer at daylight. I have the entire thing on film. I shot the thing probably at daylight, and this was probably 2 or 3 in the afternoon. So it may have been as much as 7 or 8 hours later. And so I crawled up the riverbank and looked into the tree line there, and it was really thick. And there was the buck. There was no way to get an approach on him. There was no way to get another arrow into him. He was in the thickest jungle you've ever seen. You can't, gun season wasn't open. So you couldn't finish him off with a gun, even if it was legal. I don't even know if it would be or not. I don't know that, There's just no approach, and we were right on the river, and I thought, man, if I push this and he jumps back into the river and can't make it across this time, we're going to lose the deer for sure. And so we basically stayed on that deer till dark. It was the most awful thing I've ever experienced in my life. And then we finally pulled out at dark and came back the next morning. And where we came back the next morning was the exact scene that you experienced with your deer. White hair, no blood, nothing. And just started grid searching the river. 100 yards, more hair. Another section where you can see they were pulling on him again. No blood, no sign, no deer. And then we went another probably 200 yards, found a little bit of hair, but not like we had been finding. And then that was it. And we basically grid searched that end of the property for 2 days, covered about a mile. And right when I left, one of the ranch hands found the deer, and he was another 1/8 of a mile across the fence into the next pasture from where we stopped. So
Golly.
from the place that I had that deer laying where the coyotes first engaged that buck, he finally died, and they, devoured him a mile and an eighth away.
Man.
So the other anecdote to this is, I was up in Brady, Texas, hunting with a friend of mine.
Is that up from you, Brady, Texas?
For me?
Yeah. Is that up? Is that really further north than where you live?
It was, everything's north of where I live. I live on the Gulf.
Just don't think of Brady and up.
Yeah, figure it out, man. Study them out.
Oh, man.
So, but anyway, I was hunting over there, and I watched a female coyote with its pups do this to sheep. And a buddy of mine and I were sitting on this big flat, and I'd killed a deer, and I was so excited because I'd get to hunt with him. And we were hunting together, and I was rattling for him, trying to bring a buck into bow range. And we watched this coyote come down, and she finally caught a sheep and reached up and just yanked. The first thing she had did, when she caught it, she basically cut its, Achilles tendons or the back tendons on them.
Yeah.
Where the thing couldn't hardly walk. And then she reached up and pulled a section of guts out like that. And the other sheep kept trying to defend. I mean, it was just the craziest thing. And she did that and then backed off and let her pups come up and, build confidence to do what they were doing. And this went on forever. And we kept trying to, break this deal up. And then we finally went back to the ranch, got a 223 or a 22-250 or something, and came back, and they were still there. And we shot the mother coyote, and then the other ones ran off. But, those coyotes are not going to risk their life to take an animal down when they know they don't have to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, if you've got, a dozen donuts sitting on the counter, you're not going to go make biscuits. Food's already there.
Man.
You grab one when you want it. It's just out of pure laziness.
Yeah, you're right. And, you observe things like this, like you with the sheep and the oats, and then, losing deer and stuff to coyotes. Like, it really kind of hits it home for how gruesome nature can be and how ruthless, the food chain is out there. And I guess if there's any solace at all, it's in the fact that when we do make good, clean, ethical shots, like, that's the most peaceful death that most animals are ever going to experience out there, right? Not that they're running around asking us to shoot them, but you know what I mean. But you said that you had that whole thing on video with your buck, and that's kind of where our conversation started, is because we put this out there for people to see and to take in, and you being a buddy kind of texted us and said, "Hey, guys, I don't know if that's really what we ought to be showing to just the free market out there, right?" So,
right.
Tell me your thoughts on that again, because I kind of know where you're coming from.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was just my opinion, and you guys were like, you're not the boss of me, and you're not our dad.
That's right. Take my ball and go home.
You're not my daddy. You're not my real daddy. So, but anyway, but we had a conversation about it, because that's what friends do.
Yeah.
You talk about them, tell them what you think. If you can't do that, you don't really have any friends. So, no, I mean, yeah, I had that deer on film. I actually filmed it with a red. I mean, it was some of the most beautiful footage. It was the deer was probably right under 170 inches. Shot him with a longbow. I mean, it was just gorgeous, and had just an incredible footage, but I chose not to share it because of that. And, it's not that I didn't share it among people, my inner circle and people that I know and other hunters. Mm-hmm. Certainly I did that. I'm not saying that. I didn't share it publicly, Mm-hmm. And so, and then, I'm not going to get into the details of it this year, because it just doesn't involve just me, but, we had some similar experiences in New Mexico this year.
Yeah.
And I had camera guys and expensive everything, tags and gear, travel. And I mean, there was a lot of money invested in that trip. And we had some similar experiences happen. And, I said, I'm not going to show it just to show it, because I've got, an investment in building this content. It's just, sometimes you're the bug, sometimes you're the windshield. So, so I chose not to do it. And, and I did that because of what I believe. And so I guess that's what you're asking me.
Yeah. What are you talking about? What's the belief that
cut to the chase, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know New Mexico, those elk are pretty fast. You know what I mean? New Mexico was the windshield this year for sure.
Yeah. So, my thing is that the hunting industry is its own worst enemy. There's no other way to put it. And that, when you hear people in the hunting industry say, we've got to circle the wagons, everybody's got to do the same thing. There shouldn't be bickering between bow hunters and gun hunters and trad hunters and whatever. We all got to do the same thing, and we've got to circle the wagons. Well, I agree. We got to circle the wagons, to defend our rights to what we love. But I don't think the guns need to be aiming out. I think the guns need to be aiming in to the inside of the circle, because I feel like the hunting industry is, self-destructing. It's basically providing the people that want to take away this wonderful thing that we love. We're providing them with the ammunition and all the, we're providing everything they need to do it. Because for us, when we see what happens out there with nature, it's a reality, but we also appreciate it for what it is. It makes you look at life differently. Things become a little clearer. There's better perspective when you see how harsh Mother Nature really is. And whether you're a part of it or not, it's a harsh life, and so we understand it. We talk about it amongst ourselves, and it's something that we can all relate to together. And the problem is that for the 80% of our population that doesn't hunt, but they don't really have an opinion on whether we hunt or not, eventually it's going to come down to some type of vote. I mean, if you look at how Colorado gets its things passed, it's basically, do you want to see mother bears killed, with their cubs watching? And everybody's like, no, vote no spring bear. So, that's how they present it. And so we, as hunters, for the most part, are a pretty good group of people. And I know that Tyler and KC are good men. They're men of faith, and they believe in doing the right thing and being honest. The problem is that when you go into a battle like there's going to be in our future and our kids' future for hunting, we're going to go in armed with truth, justice, and science. And they're going to come in armed with whatever it takes to win. Truth be damned. Be durned.
Durned. That's right. Yep.
Check that one off the list.
I'm glad you wrote down my suggestion there.
Yeah. So, and if you think I'm just being a doom and gloom, conspiracy theory guy, look at our media. I mean, do you honestly believe anything that you see on the news?
No.
You can't.
Yeah.
And the group that wants to take away our rights, that's the same group that owns the media.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They have the voice. They have the loudspeaker. We don't have anything. We have nothing. We don't have the voice except within our little circle. So we're going to be preaching to our own people, and they're going to be reaching the 80% of the people that are going to decide our future as hunters. So when you put something like that out there, that's super relatable to hunters, but you put it on a public platform that's viewed by hundreds of millions of people around the world, you've just given the enemy, basically the ammunition to blow you up. And it's out there for everyone to see, and it's going to be one of those things that somebody's going to look at it and go, ugh.
But what about the fact, if we're talking about the 80%, what about the fact that those 80% have a chance to see the remorse in KC's face?
Yeah, 100% that is going to be, that is definitely a great point. So my response to that is back up a few sentences. Do you think that if this was going to be on the news, on the media, on CNN or whatever, do you think they would edit it to where you'd see Casey's remorse? No. They're going to show the bad parts. They're going to edit it out. They're going to show the bad part, and they're going to say, this is what happened. Hunter shoots deer, wounds it, it gets eaten alive by a coyote. Now, everything they said is 100% true. They didn't lie, but that's how they're going to spin it, and that's what they're going to show. And you're going to say, oh, no, but look, here's the whole video. Well, our world's not whole videos anymore. Our whole world is memes and sound bites.
Yeah.
So if you're going to go to battle thinking that, if you think you're going into a Civil War battle armed with muskets, you're going into a Battlestar Galactica deal where they're shooting lasers. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, okay.
And to think otherwise is not paying attention to what's going on around you in modern day times.
Yeah, I'm with you. I know they're going to, the far, let's just call them the far left, even though it might not be Democrat, Republican we're talking here, right? But just like the far other side, the antis, okay? Mm-hmm. So that side is always going to rage. No matter if they have the content or not, they're going to make it up. So, you can't eliminate the source. Like, it's never going to happen. They're always going to find a way to spin something no matter what. So why not take the chance and do your best to convey every emotion and get on something deeper and primal with the 80% that they understand that, everyone eats. And whenever I don't get to eat, the coyotes do eat and they win and I lose. Like, why not take that chance if you know that the antis are always going to be there and be screaming?
So here, all right. So I'll tell you exactly why. Okay, because let's say that there's 12 million hunters, right? Mm-hmm. So you take those 12 million hunters. Nobody's really going to know the 12 million hunters. Nobody's ever going to get an opportunity to talk to all 12 million. So what is the resource that the 80% has to use to generate their opinion on how they're going to vote? Okay. So that 12 million is going to get reduced to, say, 1,200 of the people that choose to show hunting on a public platform, whether it be TV, internet, social media, whatever. Let's say that there's 1,200, which we know there's more than that, say 12,000.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So let's say there's 12,000 people out there that are publicly promoting and making a business out of hunting content. Let's just call it what it is, okay? Can you tell me that out of all that right there, are they going to go be able to pull 12 out of those 12,000? Are they going to be able to go pull anything that does not, for the most part, reflect hunting in a negative light? So right now you can say, okay, well, let's say that 3,000 of them are on outdoor television. Well, you can throw that out. We lost that battle.
Yeah.
That's a damn goat roasting. So there's 25% of how we're representing ourselves in the loss column.
Yeah.
Lose.
And the most common media format in the world at the moment, too, TV, right? Like the easiest to find.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Now, all right, so their next path is going to be, say, YouTube, okay? So they're going to go to YouTube. We might win a few battles there, but we'll probably lose, okay? So then you go to social media, we're screwed.
Yeah.
And you said I could say screw, but I didn't like that word, but I added an ED to it. So that's there. But I mean, we're toast because everybody is posting their pictures of their bloody deer and the tongues hanging out. Look at this giant hole my broadhead put in this animal. I mean, go look at the day 6 page, I'd love to sell a lot of broadheads, guys. There's not a single entrance exit hole picture on the day 6 page. A single one. Go to every other broadhead company and tell me if you can say that.
Yeah.
Now, is that because you have a moral stance against that, or is that because so
No,
so
100%.
you don't like it? It's not that you're trying to make sure that your company is portrayed the right way. You don't like it.
That day 6 is me.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no corporate structure here. There's no board.
Mm-hmm.
It's me, and so the company is going to reflect what my beliefs are. And my belief is that I am not going to sacrifice the future of hunting for my short-term personal gain.
Gotcha. So it's not that, like, if I text you a picture and say, "Man, look at the good job this broadhead did," it's not that you are abhorred at that. It's that you know that you have a moral obligation to kind of ensure that there's a future in this thing.
Yeah. So my thing is like if a customer, asks me, "Hey, what do you think about this?" or "I got this hit," I could say, "Hey, here's a picture of one of the deer I shot last week. Here's the exit hole." I'm happy to share it, but I'm happy to share it among a captured audience, like via a podcast.
Yeah.
So you guys have got hunters that are coming and subscribing to your podcast. It's a captured market. The 80% of people trying to make a decision, they're not going to invest any time or effort to go research. They're not going to go subscribe to podcasts and listen to hunting podcasts to make a decision. They're not going to do that. So what they're going to do is they're only going to make a decision based on what the left is feeding them, because that's the only thing they have to eat. So like for us, we can have this conversation openly because this is a captured market. This is a conversation among friends and fellow hunters. And this is where the conversation can happen and be honest and truthful and, say, "Hey, here's what happened."
But it's just like
I shouldn't have taken the shot.
But it is. I mean, it's probably has a chance of being more captured, for sure. But it's still the podcasting is still an open market to the public, just like YouTube. And like you said, people are invested that are hunters into this podcast, just like people are not going to look at, big buck videos that aren't hunters most of the time either. If somebody wants to rage, then they're going to find that video and they're going to do it. But they could easily go do that on podcasts too.
They could, but you're not hearing what I'm saying, though. I mean, people are not going to go take the time to click on a podcast and listen through them to try to educate themselves on something they don't care anything about.
I mean, I agree with that.
All right. So let's go to social media, okay? So let's say that you, here's a great one. All right. Let's say that you went to Instagram, clicked your search thingamajigger, click your searchy thing, and you type in Hunter Biden. Okay. But let's say that you type in Hunter, and before you finish, all the suggestion things start popping up. Okay. And so there's all these pictures and suggestions. And there's one of our famous, hunting celebrities doing something goofy right there in front of your face. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing on a YouTube search. You click in Hunter Biden, and then before you get through and you've got Hunter clicked, Hunter does whatever, or "You're not going to believe this, biggest thing you've ever seen," or "You're not going to believe what happens." And the person will go, "Oh, let me look at this," and click it and go, "Oh my God." But that's not really that's going to happen as much as what's going to happen is that the people that want to take it away from us, they're just going to go click capture, click capture, click capture, click capture, sizzle reel. These guys are scumbags.
Do you think it's going to get to the point, though, where, they might be opposed to us, but they're not stupid? Like, people know, if we start, covering our tracks with YouTube and stuff, they're going to find whatever media outlet we have, and sooner or later, one of these days, we're just not going to be able to go public with anything we do if we keep following this model, right? It's going to perpetuate into just a completely closet society unless we do something different.
It's like the Lions Club.
Yeah.
No.
Kiwanis.
Yeah, no. I'm not saying. I mean, what I'm saying is that you should be taking the opportunity to put content on there that is positive, that it reflects positively on hunting and shows the romance and the spirituality of it. I mean, you want to show that, and you keep, listen, man. You've had bad stuff happen to you in your life, right?
Oh, yeah.
You tell everybody you meet that? Or do you tell the guys that you trust and love? Because you want to tell somebody, because you want to get it off your chest. You want to tell somebody and be able to get reassurance that you're still a good person, or you made the right decision, or it's going to be okay. So that's when you choose to share that with the people that you choose to surround yourself with. But you're not going to walk down the mall and start telling people all your dirty laundry and hope that somebody's like, man, that happened to me too.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's you're going to end up where it's not a fun situation, because you're going to have the world is full of cruel people, right? And they're not going to comfort you as much as they're going to condemn you. So it's just not going to work out. And
life's not fair.
No.
So if you're going to rely on the truth and righteousness to fight your battle against people that aren't, you're going to lose.
Mm-hmm. So,
I mean, it's just going to happen.
So, the all-wise and mighty Brian.
I'm gonna pop you in the mouth next time I see you.
No, I say it partially in jest. I do appreciate what you have to say, and to be completely honest, you definitely achieved your goal, because now we're talking and thinking about this after you sent us a text the other day, right? That was
right.
That's what we're trying to do, is have good conversations about stuff that matters.
Well, my message said you may want to think about this in the future. It didn't say, hey, let me look over here.
I thought it said you're grounded.
Yeah, I thought it said, no, you're not going to Grandma's house this weekend.
Yeah, it didn't say, hey, dip Weasel's yard. Dumb butts. That sounds terrible. That sounds terrible.
Yeah.
So anyway, it said, hey, y'all might want to think about, next time. That's all it said.
Yeah. So if you could make it in and when I say it, I mean content from all media platforms. If you can make it ideal, what does it look like ideally? Like, just take like social media, where it's such a circus, right? Like, what should it look like to preserve the future of hunting?
I guess what I would say is that what I'm telling you is that I'm a realist, and I know that there's no way to ever keep it from being shown.
Yeah.
You follow what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dummy's going to dummy, right?
Yeah. So some of the best hunting places I ever had in my life, I never paid for. It was some of the best properties. People didn't hunt, they didn't care. But when I came and went, on their place, I came and went on that place like I didn't belong there. I mean, I went on in and off that place like literally to leave no sign of passing. Never wanted to have to engage with them, go talk with them, nothing. I was out of sight, out of mind, and I would hunt those places forever. Then had one guy call me one time and say, hey, my nephew's wanting to come down and deer hunt. Do you still hunt out here? That was the honest conversation. Do you still hunt out here? And I was like, dude, I got like 40 trees marked to climb on. I mean, I've been wearing that place. I've already killed 10 deer off of it this year, But that's out of sight, out of mind, Mm-hmm. And so that, to me, that would be the perfect scenario. It's not going to happen because we have created a circus environment around hunting and fishing and the outdoors. And at the end of the day, when you create that environment around anything with nature, nature is going to be the one to lose. Mm-hmm. There's no question about it. I mean, this thing has become so commercialized. And so it is what it is. So what I'm saying is that monster's not going away, and that's not going to change. But if you are going to put something out there, you could put it out there positively, not basically shoot your own foot off. So that's the only thing I'm saying. It's not going away. So if we've got to have it, let's make the best of it and use it to our advantage everywhere we can. But that's just not what we're doing. Dude, I can't remember where I was looking at something the other day, and they had like the TV ratings, and Pigman was the number one thing on television.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, we're toast. I feel like, man, I need to pull my kids out of school and say, man, we're going to hunt every day until they take this away. And then y'all can go back to school. Because this ain't going to last if that's the crowd that we're following, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I know, man. It's kind of ridiculous what actually makes it on TV. You know, and since we're going to call this a captive audience on podcast format, right? Like, Tyler and I, one of the things we love to do on trips, like when we go hunting or whatever, is get a cheap hotel that's got some type of outdoor TV channel. Because neither of us have it at home. We don't pay our cable bills. So we love that, man. You sit there and eat cookies and make fun of people on TV all night long. But, dude, it's astounding. Like, we watched a video with like the Texas outdoorsman or whatever he's called.
Yeah.
And they're literally exploding prairie dogs in slow-mo and
Like
laughing about it.
Full
and it's like,
slow-mo. I'm
yeah.
talking like no telling what kind of lens they had on this camera because it was like half the screen was the prairie dog. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, are we really putting this on TV? Like, really? You know, it's just like, man, how...
Like this
Then
little
we gotta get
fluffy thing
Yeah.
that's the size of your wiener dog comes out of the hole and you blast it in half and do it in slow motion.
Yeah, and it benefits
Yeah.
no one except your jollies, right? Like, you're not doing
Yeah.
good for anyone. So, like...
Well, think about this. Think about just the people that are flipping through the channels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they stop on whatever the different hunting channels are, and they look at just the titles of the shows.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, blood this, red that, assassin this, slaying that. I mean,
Yeah.
zero respect. So, I mean, if that's your only exposure to the hunting world, and you like, well, every time I look up there, I'm like, what is this some kind of, you know, military mercenary channel, or what is it? You know?
Yeah.
Is it a channel about, you know, prison murders because it's like Shank and whatever, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
Why would you ever correlate horrible things like that with something as beautiful as hunting?
Yeah, sure.
You know,
Yeah.
it just blows my mind. Walk down the archery aisle in Walmart. Good grief.
First of all, you
Big
can't get down the
neon.
aisle because them big folks. But second of all,
But big neon green packages that say, you know, Slayer, Reaper, the Shank. And I mean, good grief.
yeah. Well,
I mean,
okay.
what is it?
Let's
What does that tell the person that went down the wrong aisle by accident?
Oh, what about on the basic level though? With that, I'm with you 100%. I don't like that's not my thing on marketing at all, right? But kind of the trendy thing for the hipster hunter nowadays is to use the word harvest as opposed to kill. And I kind of
don't
do.
like that word.
I kind of do interchangeable every once in a while, just because it's just kind of what comes to mind. But if I didn't grow it, I'm probably not harvesting it, right? So.
Yeah.
Where's the line at of like being honest with ourselves and with everybody else that we are taking the life of something, but also making sure you're using proper language to show respect? I mean, kill versus harvester. Is there another word?
All right. So let me ask you this. So if you want to talk about semantics, all right.
Yeah.
So let's say that you've got a person that you've really met and you like and you think they have a good heart and you want to lead them towards Christ. Okay. And you know that if you use this word, it's not going to be relatable to him and you're probably not going to lead him down, show him the light basically. But if you use this word, which is just a matter of semantics, it's purple or mauve. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean,
that's
kill or
definitely
harvest.
a very metro comment for you right there too. By the way, I didn't know you had
That's
that
right.
side.
I'm not sure what it
I'm
means
not afraid.
still.
I don't hide it. Yeah. And just so y'all know, I don't put my real initials in my underwear. Just for future reference. But anyway, if you have an end goal in mind, does it matter what words you use? It doesn't. So I'm not going to say harvest around you guys because you are going to hack on me. You know, I'm going to say I killed this deer.
Yeah.
But if I've got a person that I think I have an opportunity to explain to them what it is we do and why we do it, that might bring them over to try it or at least understand it, you better believe I'm going to use the word harvest to keep their attention and keep the conversation going.
Yeah.
What's it matter?
It
If
makes
the
sense.
end goal is a victory, does it I mean, seriously, it's not like you're lying.
Yeah.
So you're cutting hairs there, you know. I mean,
I think the another thing that the way I understand it, maybe or could it possibly help and add to this conversation a little bit, is that is also like you know, I think words are words, but it's really the intent of the heart that is what matters, right?
behind the word.
Not that I go around using some of the words that are alternative to "dern" and stuff all the time, but like,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? Like, it really is words. Words are kind of just things that have been made up by people, but at some point you have to examine the heart. So if you're saying smack them in the face with some two-shot, then you probably don't mean that in an endearing way. You know what I mean?
That's right.
But you could, not that that's something you can really change any other way. Like, that's the way you mean it pretty much. But as far as like kill, there's a way to say kill and not have respect for the animal too. You know what I mean?
It is.
So,
I mean, you certainly have, you have, an inflection,
yeah.
on how you say things and things like that. I mean, it's certainly, to be discussed, but I mean, honestly, I mean, I don't know what happened, but somehow or another, I believe every hunter on television skipped elementary school English class because every single hunter says, I seen him coming up the trail.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Everyone,
Yeah.
even the famous, I seen him coming up. No, you saw him coming up the trail.
Yeah, and them deer.
Yeah.
Everybody says them. It's those.
What's
those
the
deer.
What's the word we heard?
And then they say, he come up behind me. Well, no, he came up behind you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I'm sitting there going, this is how we're representing ourselves, to the public.
It's low barrier to entry, man.
Exactly what our opponents want us to be portrayed as.
Yeah.
We're just completing the circle.
Well, if you need to rebrand, you could be Brian Broderick, the Thesaurus Hunter, and then people might think you're hunting dinosaurs, but then really you go to the tree stand with a thesaurus and you just think about what words to use instead of profane ones.
I'm gonna smack you in the face with some twos. You think about this. Think about you meet somebody and you go, "Oh, hey, I know you. We have I know what's his name?" And the guy's like, yeah, I know that guy too. He's a peckerhead. And you're like, "Oh, really?" He's like, "Yeah, well, I haven't been around him much." Well, anyway, you end up getting back with that other guy. You go on a hunt trip or something, and 5 minutes into it, you're like, "Yep, that dude was right. This dude's a peckerhead."
Yeah.
So, and of course our antis are saying these guys are uneducated, hillbilly rednecks. They don't care about the animals. They just like to kill. They're murderers, yada, yada, yada. And you turn on outdoor television, 5 minutes into it, yep, they're peckerheads, and it's turned off.
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is that, guys like y'all that I can have a conversation with, let's have a conversation. Let's try not to complete that circle.
Yeah.
Let's try to move the needle the right direction so we have a chance, because remember, guys, something great can always start with one man.
Yeah.
It's true.
You know?
Right, man.
It's true. I could make a reference here about Jesus, couldn't I?
Yeah, well, that's what I was inferring.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
That's right, man.
And think about this. What did Jesus's enemies use against him? The truth.
Yeah.
You
What
know?
what the perceived truth was, at least, right?
Well, yeah, they used the truth, that he was telling the truth, and they used it against him.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So you guys were telling the truth. This is what really happened. but somebody's going to use it against you.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
So,
you make good points, Brian.
well, I try.
Man,
You're
what a
wise.
father figure for me.
You're a wise young man.
Yeah, awesome stuff, and I
Lord.
appreciate your willingness to have talks like this, where, like, we, not that we didn't see eye to eye, but like we kind of came into this with a little bit differing opinions on things, and I think we're all in the same place. And I think really the thing is we really need to be very careful and be intentional with what we're putting out there for the general population.
We
to
definitely
take
were.
in.
Like,
Yeah.
we thought about this quite a bit.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It's
In
just
this
that-
particular video, I don't know. I just felt like telling the story was important, but I see the points that Brian's making too.
Yeah.
And I'm not 100% saying that I completely agree that, like, that never should have been out there for the public, but I understand the points. And even more so, I appreciate that you're, the intention of making sure that it was correct information about the coyotes and all that kind of stuff, because that was really, I guess, the thing that you approached the first point was like, hey, we need to talk about exactly what happened there, because I think y'all are a little foggy and you've seen some or experienced some of it. So, yeah.
Well, no, I think what led me to that was I read the comments I read the comments on the video, and I was reading these comments going, no. How did you get that? Coyotes can't eat skull and bone and antlers overnight. No, that's not the deer. I'm saying that is the deer, but they didn't, like, some people were thinking they devoured the whole thing, or, there was one little piece of bone left. I'm like, good grief. And then, that's not your deer. And I'm like, I'm sitting there going, surely someone has seen what I've seen. And then I'm sitting there thinking, they probably haven't.
That's right, man. You're the world's most interesting man.
Nobody has probably been as irresponsible as me for 35 years and put hunting above everything else and hunted when he should have been working. And there's probably more responsible people out there that hadn't been as exposed to as much,
Yeah, definitely are.
And that's why we're experiencing too, because we're also doing that, putting hunting before working and all the things we should be
right.
doing.
Yeah.
That's why we get along.
Yeah.
I'm like, dang, I'm bored. I need to call somebody. Who can I call? Oh, Tyler and KC. They're not doing anything.
That's right.
That's
Nothing.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how Casey and I became friends. We just weren't doing anything. So we're the only people not working in Rains County.
Well, it's funny. I just told my wife a couple of days ago. I said, you know what I need that I don't have, that I'm really missing? And she said, what? I said, I need that irresponsible friend that doesn't have a job.
Would you like to?
I haven't had one of those in years. And she said, that's you. You're that person to everybody else. I went, oh, I got you.
Yeah,
I understand.
That's right.
That was her answer. That's you. You're that person.
Yeah.
How'd you take it?
I used to always have that guy that I could always call and go, hey, man, let's go shoot some hogs. Okay.
Yeah. At some
I don't
point,
have one of those guys.
you get too old to have those guys at some point, It just,
Well, that was the other point, is that people grow up, and
Yeah.
I'm like, why?
Just
Why
Hank
are they
Williams
growing
Jr.
up?
All my rowdy friends have settled down.
That's it.
hey, I thought of a word that I was trying to think of earlier when you were talking about bad grammar. And
Okay.
we were watching a video when we headed out to the Gila last year. We're driving through some areas and we're like, dude, what if we hunted in New Mexico, man? Are there like for real whitetails here, or are they all coos deer? And so we start doing all this research and stuff, and we find a video of a guy who I think was hunting like the very corner of New Mexico. He had a pretty big buck, and he was with a well-known a well-known brand or whatever.
Yeah.
He's a guy, like, he's a personality that you've heard before. And he was talking about the weather, wasn't it?
I can't even remember what he said.
He was talking about something, but he used the word refreshness.
Oh, that's it.
He said, like, there's so much refreshness out here this morning. We looked at each other like, this guy is crazy.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Well, I would love to be the guy that, if there was such a job to where, like, everybody in the hunting television industry would have to submit their, season to me, so I could just redline the crap out of it. Hey, I'm running out of words, man. We got to cut this off. I'm down to 2 left. It's gonna get R-rated if we go much longer.
That's right.
But I mean, I'd love to be able to, take it and just redline it, send it back, and just go. Nah.
Is there any chance your mom was an English teacher?
She was. Yeah.
My mom was too.
Yeah. Yeah. My mom taught reading. She was a reading and English teacher for 25 years.
That's tough business in Alabama, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she had to get out of it.
You're in the 1%.
There wasn't a big market. It was like that or a dentist. It's kind of slim pickings. But,
if you're ever like, my sales are down here in Alabama, it's because nobody can read your website.
That's right. Yeah. Use smaller words. Yeah. But no, she actually did that for 25, 27 years and retired, and then she was continuing her education while she was a teacher. It's a pretty amazing lady.
Wow.
And then she went into aerospace education.
Wow.
And so, which was great because it opened up this wealth of knowledge for me with all her, colleagues that she worked with. I mean, all these guys from NASA and the Air Force and all these, aerospace manufacturing. I mean, it's just amazing. And she basically develops aerospace education curriculums now for schools and systems all over the country and in other countries. So incredible lady. But I always try to say, what can I learn from this and how can I apply it to what I like, which is hunting and fishing. So
sure, that's awesome, man.
But that's where I got to bounce off arrows and trajectory and mass and momentum and all this good stuff across these guys that are like, sending rockets into space.
Now you're in aerospace, but it's just a different kind of arrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for doing this, man.
Funny.
It's, definitely enlightening. Glad we got to talk about it, man.
Always fun, isn't it? Hey, we're just at an hour. This is our shortest one yet.
I know it. I know it. That's a good thing, man.
Well, we really could get you rolling, but then, like you said, you would have to dive off into other 4-letter words, and we just ain't got time for that, man. Yeah. So, anyways.
Yeah. So anyway, guys, just so we could just wrap this up, we'll finish by the 2 words. I've had a heck of a time. Shoot, this was fun.
That's awesome. All right. Shoot, we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, that's it.
Good conversation, man. And you told me that he had some things to definitely be thought about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so
he makes some really good points, and I think that these are good things that we got to talk about as hunters if we want to perpetuate this into the future. And that's a weird subject all in itself. So maybe we'll talk about that at some point in time. But like, at least in my lifetime, I for sure want hunting to continue because I like to do it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that we need to be taking every step we can to make that happen. And we got to find the right point. And that's what our whole conversation was about what do you got? What can you show to make hunting look like a good thing to everybody that's going to ever be in that realm, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be some people who just like think you're an evil person because you exist. But yeah, it's a good talk, man. And I appreciate Brian's friendship and his authoritarian ways. No, I'm just kidding. No, I appreciate he has been there, done that on a lot of stuff, right? Brian's not old by any means, but he's older than us.
Yeah.
And he's done a lot of things, man.
Yeah.
And one thing I've learned throughout my life is that it's worth listening to people who've been there, done that, because you don't have to always agree with everything they say, but man, if you can avoid making some mistakes because somebody else has already made them and has gone through it, man, that's a huge life lesson.
Well, it's like, the kind of like a preacher almost. A preacher has read through, most of them. Hopefully, I guess not most of them, probably. but hopefully, if you're under the influence of a preacher, that preacher has read the Bible, right?
Yeah,
and understands it, and they're set aside to help interpret and to lead their sheep, essentially, And so, in the same way as younger dudes, I can read the same scripture that my preacher, Jason, can read and definitely not get the same thing out of it because I just don't have all all the different knowledge that he has. I can't reference scriptures just off the cuff, like he can. And so he always has these references that he can go, okay, well, this is why this says this, because of this in this, book or whatever. And so I look at that as being similar to this situation where, sometimes even though we try as hard as we can to understand what we should do about releasing this video, it doesn't mean that we have the right answer. Mm-hmm. And if we hear somebody who has prior knowledge and who has thought about this and can reference these different situations, maybe we look at it differently after that, So it's a good conversation, man. I felt a little bit convicted about it. You and I haven't got to talk about it a whole lot, but hopefully we will be able to make more clear decisions in the future about what we should do. Hopefully we just slock deer and don't have to worry about it too much, and instead of, having some issues here and there with coyotes, so it's not fun.
No, it's not.
I was in your shoes last year,
Yeah, it stinks, man. It's a tough thing to deal with. And I hope that any of you listening don't have to deal with it too much. But it is a reality, and we're definitely going to talk about it on the podcast whenever things happen, right? But maybe there are some things that the whole wide world doesn't need to see, because not that we're being dishonest and whatnot, but it's just things that we'll keep
trying to protect
amongst hunters, that kind of thing. And I think that what am I trying to say here? We like Brian so much that you'll probably hear a little more from him here and there. We're going to be working with Brian in Day 6 throughout the next season, so looking forward to that. We both shot the Day 6 stuff this year and liked it. So
I shot 3 deer with it, and
some of the best stuff made, man.
They died quickly.
Yeah, they did.
I was telling our buddy Jake earlier on the phone. I started shooting him in October, and I was a little bit resistant to wanting to do that, and you had kind of talked me into it. Because I had shot all summer. I mean, surely you can understand. I shot all summer. As much as this guy right here can fine-tune a bow, I did. You know what I mean? And I worked to do that all summer, and I got to where I'm shooting, and it's October, and, of course, nothing happens in Texas in October until late October. So really hadn't done a whole lot of deer hunting, a little bit. But we're talking in the season, all of a sudden I'm thinking, we're talking about switching over and trying some new stuff, and I'm like, dude, I don't know. And so I did, though. And I was actually very surprised at how fast my arrows started shooting darts. You know what I mean?
Dude, I remember that because you were like, man, this is going to be a little bit slow or whatever. And then I remember you strapped one on and you were shooting the, what's the 1.1/8 cut broadheads, right? Or the slightly smaller ones.
Yeah.
And, dude, you strapped it on, and then we stepped out to 20 yards, and it was just dunk, dunk, dunk.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoo, your bow is shooting sweet,
it
man.
Was. I mean, they were dropping in there, dude. And they still, And I also told Jake this earlier, but I was like, dude, I think, because he was talking about how quiet, because I think he's shot Day 6 this year as well. Yeah. And he was talking about how quiet, it makes your bow shooting a big, heavy arrow like that. It's like, dude, I already had a quiet bow, and it's unbelievable. I shot a Texas doe, which is an itchy animal. You know what I mean? They're ready to jump out of their skin at any moment. At 25 yards, which is a jumping distance. That's a string jumping distance, you know what I mean? And smoked her through, I'm talking dead center, dead nuts through the shoulders, both shoulders, stuck in the ground on the other side. And I was like, man, you would expect that a slow arrow would, but when you do the math, it actually, 10, 15 FPS is not that big of a difference. Like a deer technically has no more time to jump out of the way. You know what I mean? So it's kind of cool, man. It's definitely, they worked for me this year. They were slicing stuff for sure. So I'm looking forward to continuing to shoot them, and, hopefully one of these days I'll get a bow that has an actual draw length that I shoot.
That'd be cool. What helped with that doe, too, is you did shoot a 200-plus pound doe in Texas. So
she couldn't move as fast.
She's pretty big and slow.
But it did go straight through a 200-plus pound doe.
Smoke City, Texas, yeah. Speaking of that kind of stuff, be sure you're, if you haven't, go watch those videos. You shot a really nice Texas public land deer that not a lot of people have seen. Which is crazy.
I know.
But there's some new videos coming out.
Seems like people would rather watch the Iowa video than Texas one. What's the deal with that?
I don't know.
It's like Iowa was easy.
Iowa.
Texas was a
right.
hard state to kill.
That's right, man.
Deer.
Dadgummit. Yeah, you can see the road where you shot your eye.
I know.
Yeah, but you got a bird hunting video coming out.
Yep.
Pretty quick here.
Yeah, that's so we're hoping to release in the same day as the podcast releases. So just depending on when you're hearing this podcast, we're trying to release the bird video on Thursday.
Yeah.
So,
and then after that, it'll be our Texas hog hunt video, which
Yeah.
is a lot of fun.
I'm looking forward to that one.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a mountain of footage to put together. I think we shot like 100 gigs in like a day and a half.
Nice.
There's some exciting moments for sure. I wish we had gotten more of the exciting moments, and we're probably going to have an extra camera guy around next year for that.
Yeah, no kidding.
So, but dude, I watched the GoPro footage from when you and Cody shot those pigs on the second day.
Is it cool?
Oh, dude, it's awesome, dude.
That's cool.
I mean, it's a little. You could tell it was kind of muggy, or
Yeah.
whatever. There's a little bit of fog on the lens, but it was cool for
Sweet, man. Well, I'm looking forward to it.
sure. What cracks me up is a hog comes out. I don't know how close. Like, if it looks close on a GoPro, it's probably pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
This black hog comes out in front of you, and you're like, you pull the trigger twice before it even shot.
My gun, man. I broke my gun down as far as you can break a gun down and cleaned it before the hog hunt. And there's something with the firing pin that's just not activating or something. I always thought it was bad shells, but I mean, I don't know. Nobody else has that problem, and some of us all shot the same shells. And I know, like the shells I shot this were fairly new. They hadn't been exposed to any water, so something with the gun. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it was fun. It's fun. Going to be a fun one to watch, so stay tuned for that. But anyway, anything else going on, dude?
Nah, I mean, all kinds of stuff. I'm fixing to head to work, so and it's hot up in here. I know that you need it, but either way,
I'm definitely warm right now.
I have to go outside and get some cool air.
Some frosty.
Yeah, last thing is that I know you're the whitetail weatherman, but maybe you're the mature buck meteorologist too.
Ooh, I like it. Yeah, go it.
Yeah,
I need a poster.
You do.
Anyway, all right. Well, guys, we're getting out of here. Thanks for listening. I hope you learned something in the podcast today. And God bless you guys. Remember, this is your element.
Living it.
Hey everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay? Every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Arts Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.